The grand hall of the galactic summit shimmered with the light of 1,000 stars, its vast dome reflecting the glow of alien constellations. Delegates from across the galaxy filled the chamber, their forms as varied as the worlds they represented. Towering insectoids, gelatinous blobs, and crystalline beings mingled with humanoid figures, their voices a cacophony of clicks, hums, and growls. At the center of it all stood Ambassador Elena Reyes, her sharp eyes scanning the room. She adjusted the translator pin to her lapel, a subtle reminder of humanity's place in this gathering, newcomers, outsiders, and, to many, inferiors. The Zorathian delegation entered with a flourish, their obsidian armor gleaming under the starlight. Lord Vrax, their lead diplomat, strode to the podium, his elongated limbs moving with predatory grace. His voice, deep and resonant, echoed through the chamber as he began his address. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," he began, his tone dripping with condescension. "We gather here to discuss the future of our great alliance. But let us not forget the importance of strength, of power, in shaping that future." Elena's jaw tightened as Vrax's gaze swept over the assembly, lingering on her for a moment too long. "And yet," he continued, "we allow ourselves to be burdened by those who contribute nothing. Species who cling to their primitive ways, who bring nothing but weakness to our table." The chamber erupted in murmurs, some delegates nodding in agreement, others shifting uncomfortably. Elena's fists clenched at her sides, but she remained silent, her training as a diplomat holding her tongue. Vrax's voice grew sharper, his words cutting through the air like a blade. "I speak, of course, of the humans. A species so young, so insignificant, that their inclusion in this council is an insult to us all. What have they achieved, beyond their petty squabbles and fragile alliances? They are nothing more than apes with delusions of grandeur." The room fell silent, all eyes turning to Elena. She stepped forward, her heels clicking against the polished floor. "Lord Vrax," she began, her voice steady despite the anger simmering beneath the surface. "Humanity may be young, but we have proven our resilience time and time again. We have faced extinction and emerged stronger. We have—" Vrax cut her off with a wave of his hand, his laughter echoing through the chamber. "Resilience? Strength? Do not make me laugh, Ambassador. Your species is a blight, a stain on the galaxy. You have no place here." The other delegates joined in, their laughter a chorus of disdain. Elena's cheeks burned, but she held her head high, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. As the session adjourned, Elena retreated to her quarters, her mind racing. She activated the holographic communicator, the image of the United Earth Council flickering to life before her. "They humiliated us," she said, her voice low and fierce. "But they've made a mistake. They've underestimated us, and that will be their downfall." The council members exchanged uneasy glances, their faces etched with concern. "Elena," one of them began, "we cannot afford to provoke them. Our black hole project is still in its infancy. If they discover what we're capable of—" "We have no choice," Elena interrupted. "They've already declared war on us, even if they haven't fired a shot yet. We need to be ready." The room fell silent, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the air. Finally, the council leader nodded. "Do what you must, Ambassador. But tread carefully. The fate of our species depends on it." Back on Earth, the Black Hole Project was in full swing. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, engineers and scientists worked around the clock, their efforts fueled by a mixture of desperation and determination. Lieutenant Marcus Lee stood at the heart of the facility, his eyes scanning the readouts on the massive console before him. "The core is stable," he reported, his voice tinged with relief. "We're ready for the next phase." His colleague, Dr. Amina Patel, nodded, her expression grim. "Let's just hope it's enough. If the Zorathians attack before we're ready—" She trailed off, the unspoken words hanging between them. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder, his grip firm. "We'll be ready," he said. "We have to be." The Zorathians, meanwhile, were growing impatient. Lord Vrax stood on the bridge of his flagship, his eyes fixed on the holographic image of Earth. They dare defy us, he muttered, his voice a low growl. They dare to stand against the might of the Zorathian Empire. It is time they learned their place. The order was given, and the Zorathian fleet surged forward, their ships cutting through the void like knives. Earth's defenses scrambled to respond, but they were no match for the overwhelming firepower of the invaders. Cities burned, their skies lit by the glow of falling stars. The people of Earth watched in horror as their world was torn apart, their cries echoing across the planet. But amidst the chaos, a spark of hope remained. Deep within the Martian facility, the black hole-powered ships stirred to life, their engines humming with barely contained energy. Marcus and Amina exchanged a glance, their resolve hardening. "This is it," Marcus said, his voice steady. "Let's show them what humanity is made of." The ships launched, their sleek forms cutting through the darkness like shadows. The Zorathians barely had time to react before the human fleet was upon them, their weapons blazing with the fury of a species pushed to the brink. The battle was fierce, the void lit by the flash of explosions and the glow of dying stars. But humanity fought with a ferocity that stunned their enemies, their ships moving with a precision and speed that defied belief. As the tide began to turn, Marcus allowed himself a small smile. "They thought we were weak," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But they were wrong. They angered the wrong species." The Zorathian fleet descended upon Earth like a swarm of locusts, their ships blotting out the sun as they rained destruction from above. Cities crumbled under the relentless barrage, their skylines reduced to smoldering ruins. The people of Earth scrambled for shelter, their cries drowned out by the deafening roar of explosions. From orbit, Lord Vrax watched the devastation with a cold satisfaction, his lips curling into a cruel smile. "Let this be a lesson to the galaxy," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "No one defies the Zorathian Empire and lives to tell the tale." But even as the invaders celebrated their apparent victory, humanity was far from defeated. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, the black hole-powered fleet stirred to life, their engines humming with a low, ominous thrum. Lieutenant Marcus Lee stood at the helm of the flagship USS Defiance, his hands gripping the console as he monitored the readouts. "All systems are green," he reported, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. "We're ready to launch on your command." Dr. Amina Patel stood beside him, her eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed the Zorathian fleet's movements. "They're concentrating their forces on Earth," she said, her voice tight with urgency. "If we don't act now, there won't be anything left to save." Marcus nodded, his jaw set in determination. "Then we hit them hard and fast. Let's show them what happens when you mess with humanity." The Defiance surged forward, its sleek form cutting through the void like a blade. Behind it, the rest of the human fleet followed, their ships moving in perfect unison. The Zorathians, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of the human vessels, scrambled to respond. Their commanders barked orders, their voices tinged with panic as they realized the gravity of their mistake. "What is this?" one of them demanded, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Where did these ships come from?" The answer came in the form of a barrage of energy blasts, their brilliant light illuminating the darkness of space. The human ships moved with a precision and speed that left the Zorathians reeling, their advanced technology no match for the ingenuity and determination of their foes. Marcus watched as the enemy fleet began to falter, their formations breaking under the relentless assault. "They're not so tough now, are they?" he muttered, a grim smile playing on his lips. But the Zorathians were not so easily defeated. Lord Vrax, his face twisted with rage, ordered his ships to regroup. "Do not let them intimidate you," he roared, his voice echoing through the calms. "They are nothing but insects, scurrying about in the dark. Crush them!" The Zorathian fleet rallied, their ships surging forward with renewed vigor. The battle intensified, the void lit by the flash of explosions and the glow of dying stars. Aboard the Defiance, Marcus and Amina worked tirelessly to coordinate the human fleet's movements. "We need to hit their command ship," Amina said, her eyes scanning the holographic display. "If we take out Vrax, the rest of them will fall apart." Marcus nodded, his fingers flying over the console as he relayed the orders. All ships, focus your fire on the Zorathian flagship. Let's end this. The human fleet converged on the Zorathian command ship, their weapons blazing as they tore through the enemy's defenses. Vrax watched in horror as his ship was engulfed in a storm of fire, his once proud vessel reduced to a burning hulk. This cannot be, he screamed, his voice filled with desperation. We are the Zorathian Empire. We cannot be defeated by these primitives. But his words fell on deaf ears as the human fleet closed in, their weapons trained on the crippled command ship. Marcus leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as he issued the final order. Fire! The Defiance's main cannon roared to life, its energy beams slicing through the Zorathian flagship like a hot knife through butter. For a moment, the void was filled with a blinding light, and then there was nothing but silence. The Zorathian fleet, now leaderless and demoralized, began to retreat, their ships scattering in all directions. The human fleet pursued them, their relentless assault driving the invaders back. Marcus watched as the enemy's ships disappeared into the darkness, his chest heaving with exertion. We did it, he said, his voice filled with awe. We actually did it. But even as the human fleet celebrated their victory, the reality of the situation began to sink in. Earth lay in ruins, its cities reduced to ash and rubble. The cost of their triumph had been high, and the road to recovery would be long and difficult. Marcus turned to Amina, his expression grim. This isn't over, he said. Not by a long shot. But we've shown them what we're capable of. And if they come back, we'll be ready. Amina nodded, her eyes filled with determination. They thought we were weak, she said. But they were wrong. They angered the wrong species. The void of space was alive with chaos. The Zorathian fleet, once a symbol of invincibility, now floundered in disarray. Their command ship was gone, reduced to debris drifting silently among the stars. The human fleet, sleek and relentless, pressed the advantage, their black hole-powered engines allowing them to outmaneuver and outgun their enemies at every turn. Lieutenant Marcus Lee stood at the helm of the U.S. Defiance, his eyes locked on the holographic display that showed the Zorathian ships scrambling to regroup. They're trying to form a defensive line, he said, his voice calm but edged with urgency. We can't let them. Dr. Amina Patel nodded, her fingers dancing across the console as she calculated trajectories and weapon arcs. If we hit them here, she said, pointing to a cluster of Zorathian cruisers, we can break their formation and force them into retreat. Marcus glanced at her, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. You're enjoying this, aren't you? He asked. Amina smirked. Let's just say I'm not losing any sleep over it. The Defiance surged forward, its engines humming with barely contained power. The human fleet followed, their movements precise and coordinated. The Zorathians, still reeling from the loss of their command ship, were unprepared for the ferocity of the assault. Energy blasts tore through their ranks, their ships exploding in brilliant flashes of light. The void was filled with the screams of dying crews and the panicked shouts of commanders trying to maintain order. Aboard a Zorathian cruiser, Captain Vrel stared in disbelief at the carnage unfolding around him. How is this possible? He muttered, his voice trembling. They're supposed to be weak, primitive. How are they doing this? His first officer, a young Zorathian with wide, fearful eyes, shook his head. I don't know, Captain. But we can hold them off. We need to retreat. Vrel's fists clenched in frustration, but he knew the officer was right. Order the fleet to fall back, he said, his voice heavy with defeat. We'll regroup and... His words were cut off as the Defiance's main cannon roared to life, its energy beams slicing through the cruiser's hull like paper. The ship shuddered violently, its systems failing as it began to break apart. Vrel's final thought was one of bitter regret. We should never have angered them. The human fleet pressed on, their momentum unstoppable. Marcus watched as the Zorathian ships retreated, their once proud formations reduced to scattered remnants. They're running, he said, his voice filled with a mixture of relief and triumph. But we can't let them get away. We need to send a message. Amina nodded, her expression grim. Agreed. Let's make sure they never forget what happens when you mess with humanity. The Defiance and its fleet pursued the retreating Zorathians, their weapons blazing as they picked off stragglers and crippled ships. The Zorathians, now fully aware of their mistake, broadcast desperate pleas for mercy, but the humans were in no mood to listen. You had your chance, Marcus muttered as he watched a Zorathian destroyer explode in a fiery burst. You should have thought twice before attacking us. As the battle raged on, a transmission came through from Earth. Ambassador Elena Reyes's face appeared on the holographic display, her expression a mixture of relief and determination. Lieutenant Lee, she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. The Council has authorized you to deliver a final message to the Zorathians. Make it clear that humanity will not tolerate aggression. Make it clear that we are not to be underestimated. Marcus nodded, his jaw set in determination. Understood, Ambassador. We'll make sure they get the message. He turned to Amina, his eyes blazing with resolve. Prepare a broadcast. I want every Zorathian ship to hear this. The transmission went out, Marcus's voice echoing through the comms of every Zorathian vessel. This is Lieutenant Marcus Lee of the United Earth ship Defiance. You attacked our home. You killed our people. You thought we were weak, that we would roll over and die. But you were wrong. Humanity does not bow to bullies. We rise and we fight. And if you ever come near us again, we will destroy you. This is your only warning. The Zorathians, their morale shattered, began to surrender en masse. Their ships powered down their weapons and shields, their crews broadcasting pleas for clemency. Marcus watched as the once mighty fleet was reduced to a collection of broken, defeated vessels. It's over, he said, his voice filled with quiet satisfaction. We've won. But even as the human fleet began to secure their victory, Marcus knew the fight was far from finished. The Zorathians had been humbled, but there were other species out there, other threats that would test humanity's resolve. He turned to Amina, his expression serious. This is just the beginning, he said. We've shown them what we're capable of. Now we need to make sure they never forget. Amina nodded, her eyes filled with determination. They thought we were the wrong species to anger, she said. And they were right. But not for the reasons they believed. The Galactic Council chamber was silent, the air thick with tension as the delegates gathered to address the fallout of the Zorathian invasion. The once arrogant representatives of the Zorathian Empire sat hunched in their seats, their pride shattered and their empire in ruins. At the center of the chamber stood Ambassador Elena Reyes, her posture tall and unwavering, her eyes burning with quiet fury. The holographic display behind her showed images of Earth's devastated cities, their ruins a stark reminder of the cost of the conflict. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, Elena began, her voice steady and commanding. You have witnessed the consequences of underestimating humanity. The Zorathians believed they could attack us with impunity, that we would crumble under their might. They were wrong. She paused, her gaze sweeping over the assembled delegates. But this is not just a story of humanity's resilience. It is a warning. A warning to any who would seek to harm us, to any who would dare to treat us as lesser beings. We are not weak. We are not insignificant. And we will not be ignored. The chamber erupted in murmurs, the delegates exchanging uneasy glances. The Zorathian representative, a once proud diplomat now reduced to a shadow of his former self, rose to speak. Ambassador Reyes, he began, his voice trembling. We acted in error. We underestimated your species, and for that, we pay the price. But we beg for mercy. Our empire is broken, our people suffering. We ask for your forgiveness. Elena's expression hardened, her eyes narrowing as she regarded the Zorathian. Forgiveness is not mine to give, she said, her voice cold. The people of Earth have suffered greatly because of your actions. But we are not conquerors. We are not tyrants. We will not seek to destroy you, as you sought to destroy us. Instead, we offer you a chance to rebuild, under our terms. The terms were harsh but fair. The Zorathians would be required to dismantle their military, to surrender their weapons and technology, and to submit to oversight by the Galactic Council. Their empire would be reduced to a fraction of its former size, their influence curtailed. But they would be allowed to survive, to learn from their mistakes and, perhaps, to one day earn back the trust of the galaxy. As the Council voted to accept the terms, Elena turned her attention to the other delegates. "Let this be a lesson to all of you," she said, her voice ringing with authority. "Humanity is not a species to be trifled with. We have faced extinction and emerged stronger. We have endured hardship and thrived. And we will defend our place in this galaxy, no matter the cost." The delegates nodded, their expressions a mixture of awe and fear. Humanity had proven itself a force to be reckoned with, and none dared to challenge them. As the session adjourned, Elena made her way to the observation deck, her mind racing with thoughts of the future. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but humanity had taken its first steps toward securing its place among the stars. Back on Earth, the process of rebuilding had already begun. The ruins of the cities were being cleared, the survivors working tirelessly to restore what had been lost. Lieutenant Marcus Lee stood atop a hill overlooking the remains of what had once been a bustling metropolis, his heart heavy with the weight of all that had been sacrificed. Dr. Amina Patel joined him, her expression somber, as she gazed out over the devastation. "It's hard to believe," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "All of this, because they thought we were weak." Marcus nodded, his jaw clenched in determination. "They'll never make that mistake again," he said. "We've shown them what we're capable of. And if anyone else tries to test us, they'll regret it." Amina turned to him, her eyes filled with a quiet resolve. "This isn't the end, you know," she said. "There are other threats out there, other species who might see us as a target. We need to be ready." Marcus nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "We will be," he said. "We've come too far to let anyone take this from us." As the sun set over the ruins, casting long shadows across the landscape, Marcus and Amina stood in silence, their thoughts turning to the future. Humanity had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, but the fight was far from over. They would need to remain vigilant, to continue pushing the boundaries of what was possible. But for now, they allowed themselves a moment of quiet reflection, a moment to honor those who had been lost and to celebrate the resilience of their species. In the days that followed, humanity's black hole-powered fleet became a symbol of hope and strength, their sleek ships patrolling the stars as a reminder of what they had achieved. The Galactic Council, once dismissive of humanity, now regarded them with a mixture of respect and fear. And the Zorathians, their empire in ruins, began the long process of rebuilding, their arrogance replaced by a newfound humility. As Ambassador Elena Reyes addressed the United Earth Council one final time, her words echoed through the chamber and out into the stars. "We are humanity," she said, her voice filled with quiet pride. "We are strong. We are resilient. And we will not be broken. Let this be a lesson to the galaxy: you do not anger the wrong species.